Hey guys, today I'm reviewing for you Pat Mcgrath Mthrshp Mega Celestial Divinity palette. Let's just get into this baby. I have already done a first impression with this palette and I did 2 looks, so do check that video out. For this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 looks, including the look I've got on my eyes right now. I think this look is one of my absolute favorites. So this year, Pat Mcgrath came out with an 18 pan eyeshadow palette, which is huge. I mean, this is a massive palette. It's got 18 eyeshadows. Of course, per pan you get less product. However, I think this is plenty of product, even per pan, because I never ever hit pan on my eyeshadows. I have far too many to do that. So I'm totally happy with the size. What I really love about this palette is the color diversity. So I have talked about how, you know, there are only these middle 2 columns here that are in fact brand new shades. The rest are repeats. For me, I'm brand new to Pat Mcgrath. I've never purchased her eyeshadow palettes before. This is my first purchase, so I don't have those repeat shades. One of the questions that you guys asked me in my first impression video is this palette worth the money? And I've been testing this out now for the last week and a half. I've been trying this out almost every day, and I can say that, yeah, this palette is worth the money. Now, it doesn't have any of her special shades, which is a little bit unfortunate. I wish there was just one special shade because I've never tried those, and those are really only available in her luxe packaging. But that's okay. This palette does come with 18 gorgeous shades, and they are beautiful. I've been working with these eyeshadows and the payoff is amazing. Sometimes you notice that some palettes will swatch beautifully, but when you actually apply them on the eye, when you try and blend them out, they can be really difficult. I didn't experience that with this palette. This palette applied on the eyes pretty much the same way it swatches in person. It swatches beautifully, it's pigmented, and that's how it applies on the eyes. It's really stunning. So let's get into these 3 eye looks, and then I'll share with you my thoughts around this palette, and we'll discuss some individual shades. For this first look, I'm using Venusian Orchid in my crease, and then I'm going in with the shade Smoked Amethyst to smoke out my outer eye. This is a shade that had a lot of fallout, and I'm just building that up in layers because it's not the best shade to blend. I'm also using this in my lower lash line. I'm going it 2/3 of the way in. Now I'm applying this stunning shade called Violet Void. It is beautiful. I love this color, and it applies just as it swatches, and I'm also using it in the inner third. This is the full look. It looks absolutely beautiful. The only problem with this look is that the blend is not good. You can see it looks a little bit patchy. I just struggled with Smoked Amethyst. Now for this next look, I'm using Venusian Orchid again, and then I'm going in with Major Mahogany. I love this matte shade. It blends out beautifully. After that, I'm topping that up with the shade Corruption. It's a beautiful duochrome, but it's very subtle. It's not super intense, so it's a very wearable duochrome. It has hints of amber in it. Unfortunately, the camera doesn't really do it justice. Then I'm applying Major Mahogany in my lower lash line, and I'm also going to be applying that in the outer V just to add some more depth. Next, I'm using the shade Cosmic, which is like a beautiful scattered glitter shade, and I'm using that just in the center lid. And this is the final look. I really love this look. It is very wearable. It doesn't look too intense, but you can intensify it if you did deepen the outer V. I really like how it looks, and I know that this shade in person actually looks so much better. Now for this last look, I'm using Venusian Orchid again all over my eye. Then I'm patting the outer V with the shade Venomous Void. Beautiful, stunning matte shade. I can even just wear this shade on its own all over my eye with a little bit of back pencil, and I would be happy. This is a stunning, stunning matte shade, and it blends beautifully. Then I'm using the same shade in the lower lash line. Next, I am just topping up that lid with this very beautiful electron shade. This is a purple, but it has a very interesting lavender reflex. It almost looks like blue. I would say it's like borderline blue and lavender. I'm using a flat synthetic brush just to make sure that it's all neat and tidy, and applying that in the inner third of the eye as well. And this is the final look. I really dig this look. I think it looks really stunning. This eyeshadow electron is everything. I love the shifts it gives, and it applies on the eyes exactly how it swatches. Stunning. So there aren't actually many matte shades in this palette, and that's a bit of a con, because there are really only 3 matte shades. So this mahogany shade right here applies beautifully. It does swatch very dry, but when you apply this to the eye and then you blend it out, it's a very smooth blend. What I also really like about this shade, which is quite interesting, is that it blends out almost into nothing if you want it to. Which is interesting, because normally you either have matte shades that are not that pigmented, and so you can just buff them out and blend them out into nothingness. Then you have shades that are very pigmented, and then when you blend them out, they keep their intensity. They don't blend out into nothingness at all. They actually stay quite pigmented. With this shade, however, it's very different. You can blend it out into a transition shade. So I've actually tried to use this shade even as a transition shade, and it worked beautifully if you just pick a small amount. And even if you go in and add a little bit too much, it's very user friendly and even beginner friendly, because you can just go in with a blending brush and it will just become like this very soft diffused color. And if you want that pigmentation, you can go back in with a very dense brush and pack it on, and you'll be fine. You'll have the very pigmented mahogany shade. So I was very happy with this matte shade. It definitely works differently to the other matte shades I have in my collection. So really enjoyed using that. And then of course we have this beautiful violet shade. So when I swatched this, I thought, yes, it's beautiful, and it doesn't swatch as dry as the mahogany shade, but it applies on the eye so beautifully. I've got that right now, as you would have seen from the looks. It's stunning. And the best thing about it is that it has pigment, right? It's saturated. It's actually a stunning violet shade. It's quite hard to formulate purple violet matte eyeshadows. It's not easy. I mean, I've done a video comparing Huda Beauty versus Juvia's Place purple eyeshadows, and there I talk about how the purple matte shades in both the palettes are okay. They're not the best. This one, I feel like so far is truly the best. It's even better, my Viseart palette purple shade. That one is a violet shade, but it's more of a muted, more of a deeper violet, and it blends beautifully. This one is more of a vibrant violet, so it really can give you that intensity on the eye. It can really smoke out that outer V, which I didn't think this would be able to. I thought this would be a shade that would be a mid-tone purple and I wouldn't be able to smoke it out, but not the case. I can definitely smoke it out, and it's stunning. I'm quite surprised. It's beautiful. So with the matte shades, I am happy. They do blend really well, and there were a couple of surprises for me in there. And then of course you've got tons and tons of shimmer. There's a lot of metallics and sparkly and duochrome shades. It's such a beautiful palette. I will say that this shade right here, I have dinged it, but this shade was a little bit disappointing. It has purple sparkle, but it has a ton of fallout. I mean, when I used it to create one of the looks that I've showed you already, there was a ton of fallout. So I didn't particularly enjoy that, even though I know with some of these shimmer shades, you've just got to do your eyes first and then do your foundation. Also the sparkle will stay there if you use a setting spray to apply on your brush, or if you use like a glitter glue, the sparkle will remain. but if you're blending this shade out, that sparkle will just go away and you're just left with a beautiful sort of like a gray toned deep purple shade, which is still very nice. And I've actually been using this as a smoke out shade. So I think that is really the only shade in this palette that I thought was average. The rest of the shades I've actually really enjoyed using. Even something like this, which in the swatches, it has a green shift to it. It doesn't look interesting at all in the pan, but it definitely has that green shift that you can absolutely see when you pop this on the eye. I didn't think you'd be able to because it is subtle, but it's very evident. And then of course this purple right here is just heavenly. It's heavenly. So I'm not gonna go and talk about every single shade because I think otherwise we'd be here forever. I think absolutely it's worth the money, especially for those of you who haven't tried Pat McGrath. So just like me, this was my first time trying Pat McGrath, and I'm really happy with the diversity of shades that you get in this palette. And there isn't a single shade in here that is similar to another shade. And I can appreciate that. It just means I can get various looks from this palette. You can also do quite a few wearable looks. Initially, I was very intimidated by this palette because it looks crazy. It looks really crazy. But when you kind of get past that initial intimidation and really dig into this palette and start using these shades, you realize that yes, you can create some really dramatic, artistic, beautiful looks, but you can also create some really gorgeous wearable eye looks. Like this look for me, for example, this is a wearable look. I would absolutely wear this look, and it was so simple to create. It was like 3 eyeshadows. So I'm going to say that if you've seen this palette and you think it looks very scary, don't be scared, but do have a look at the swatches. The main thing with this palette is, are you going to be using these shades, and do the swatches appeal to you? Also, if you love purple eyeshadows, this palette is amazing. It has great purple shades. I've been very happy with my purple shades in this palette. So for purple lovers, it's a big tick. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, subscribe. I would love if you guys were to subscribe and hit that bell notification and let me know which look you like the best. And I will see you guys in my next video. See ya.